All right, welcome to Pod 146 of the 4Bs. Bullish Bitcoin banter and bullshit. You may notice Sir Neverlook is not here tonight, but you do have Mr. All In, Dr. Eva 10%, Mrs. No Show. And that's the awkward intro out the way. We don't have to talk about it
Well,
anymore.
we do have to talk about it because it's 147, not 146.
God damn it. 147 as well. I should have remembered that number. Like literally, it's the all-time high in snooker.
Yeah, I didn't
Yes.
know that,
One
but
Yo
never mind.
Sullivan's 147, 5 minutes, one of the all-time greatest sporting achievements.
Only thing I use snooker for is falling asleep when I can't fall asleep.
I was going to say I never watched snooker.
That's
I was just saying one thing before we came on, which I thought was worth mentioning is you've seen the French election, haven't you, this week?
Yeah, what a
So he,
shocker
so they
that.
didn't want the far right to get in, so he brought in the fucking far left instead and made a pact with communists and socialists. My God, it's going to be entertaining in France. And I think if you're French and listen to this, you may want to find somewhere else to live for the next 5 years.
Hmm. I must admit, I obviously don't follow it that closely, but I saw some stuff on Twitter and it looked super dodgy. They seem to be just excluding certain jurisdictions. They seem to have edited some of the votes, like discounted others, pretty much just gamified the system where they knew certain votes were going to go one way, didn't count them or split those territories up and mix them in with others that are hugely left and split the right voting territories into pieces. So their votes all got divided up against, and it just seems super corrupt. And I've seen some videos
And
of
they
a
made
load
it,
of
and they
like
did make
idiots
a deal
going,
with the
haha, you
devil.
lost. Well,
And they made a deal with the devil with the far, far left. You know, it wasn't just the far right, as the media calls it, it was the far, far left. Like they're now bringing 90% tax against people who are marginally rich.
it's yeah, well, I did see some comments actually because the overall trend in politics is that people are going more and more right. And then the last two elections, obviously UK went left and then France went left. And they're like, oh, what's this? Is this a new thing? And you just go, well, not really. It's just not like the essentially going right essentially is anti-government. That's kind of what it's called now. If you don't agree with your government, you're probably a right-wing nationalist according to the mainstream media. But then in the UK and in France, overwhelmingly have been voting left. And but yeah, I don't trust elections anyway. It's just I'm just at the point where they lie about so much that why wouldn't they lie about an election? Like who knows where those votes go?
you
Who's
mean
verifying them?
you don't trust a piece of paper with a pencil where you put a cross on a box? That's crazy. It's the
Just
most
in your local town hall with like
yeah.
Doris and Boris in
Funnily,
control.
yeah, funnily enough, I went in with my voting slip, which I mailed to you, and I went in with my driving license. And she looked at my driving license, looked at me, and then she looked down at the address, went, yeah, that's in the right area. And then went over to me, they got my number, gave me my ballot, and I'm just kind of going, is that it? You know, like I could probably get hold of a driving license or a passport so easily. And I
Hmm.
could also get it edited on the address and all sorts, and actually just create those. And you kind of go, this is the security which you have around elections.
But the barrier before that was nothing whatsoever. You just turned up with a piece of paper. So
Yeah, but Doris or whoever it is at the door doesn't know what a driving license is.
yeah. I mean it's no
You're on mute, Mr. Olin. You just muted yourself for some reason when you're trying to talk.
Oh, yeah. Now, as I say, in America, you don't even need ID, which
Oh
is
yeah, they brought it into a constitution, haven't they?
yeah. Apparently, it's racist for saying you need ID because, and I think I can't remember who it was. It was either Biden or someone like that said, yeah, because black people don't have IDs, so we want them all to vote. And then guess what? A load of black people came out going, "We do have IDs, you fucking bigot!" Like what?
yeah.
Like I know. Like, it's like,
Wait,
And he also said, "You're not black if you don't vote for me."
oh yeah, he's also said that. Yeah, if you vote for Trump, you're not black. Oh my God. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know why we're talking about politics. Anyway, I do want to get it on the pod. The fact that Mrs. No Show, you accidentally did a work call and then got logged in as Mrs. No Show.
I didn't think this was going to come off. I thought I was going to avoid it. Yeah.
So very, very big global clients.
Oh,
Couldn't be bigger, really, could it?
no, probably not. Probably couldn't be bigger. And I'm sat there. I've got 30 minutes to speak to this guy, and 30 minutes only. In the first 5 minutes, I'm shitting myself trying to change my name. And it turns out the settings are locked, and I'm sitting there, and I just have to introduce myself on this call as Mrs. No Show. Hi, I've been here 15 years. I'm Mrs. No Show. Basically, it's my own fault because I didn't show up.
It's exactly what you want your customer to be thinking.
Yeah, exactly. It builds trust, you know. I afterwards, retrospectively, when we were talking about it, the lies that I could have done to play it off would have been so much better than the truth in this occasion. Like my general rule in life is the truth gets you through, but in this case, I probably should have lied.
Yeah, it all depends, doesn't it? If it's a wokey cokey person,
Yeah,
they love comforting lies. You know, they built their whole life around it. So just give them another one.
yeah.
But if you get the right person, you can just go, yeah, it's just a nickname on a podcast, and they're like, okay, and then you literally move on. But
To
the
be fair,
wokey cokey person, it's like, well, this tells me you don't show up, and you also do not respect pronouns because I'm pretty sure your pronoun is not Mrs.
hey, I am the authority on pronouns in this podcast. I'll have you know. So
Well, exactly.
you know.
Here you're fine. But if you were to then say that again
Yeah,
to this wokey cokey person, go, actually, I am the head of DEI on my podcast. I don't think it would get you out of the problem. I'm pretty sure you're just going to keep digging.
probably
Well,
more fun.
but if they said you obviously don't respect pronouns, like how dare you state who I identify as?
Yeah. I am full blown offended by that statement. I feel like we need a South Park episode on it. Yeah, it was funny. Afterwards, it wasn't funny at the time. I sent a screenshot of me on the call to the guys, and my face probably said everything as I'm panicking.
Your eyeballs are just like scattering around the screen, like trying to fucking find the buttons.
What I should have done was the avatar. I should have just been like a fox.
Just to distract them.
Yeah.
From the name.
But you can, it's okay. It's okay because on Zoom you can select to hide your name for yourself only when you save the recording to your computer, which makes great sense. So
yeah. Just be like, it's fine. Don't look at my name. Don't look at my name.
yeah.
I'm a raccoon.
Well, I identify as a what is it, a squirrel or something?
How dare you misgender raccoon?
But my favorite is this one. That's a big favorite. It takes me back to my nightmare, my recurring nightmare, which went on for about 2 years.
I think I missed every pod, hence the nickname during COVID. And I don't think that we ever got to wear the masks on the call, did we? So
no.
I'm starting to, let's move on.
Yeah, definitely move swiftly on from that.
So should we move on to the first story? So the first story is why is Bitcoin dumping, bro?
Because it's scam.
Yeah. Well, this is actually my initial response was like more sellers than buyers. I think someone asked me the other week, and I was like more sellers than buyers, which I think is just Mr. All is indoctrinated us to literally just not care and just say that line at anyone who asks you why. And you're just like, more sellers, less buyers. So in this article, I think it's quite good to look at, for people who are wondering why it's happening. So it comes up with the reasons. So the first one, I think, is around Mt. Gox and talking about the speculation. So Mt. Gox, if you're not familiar, was an exchange. When did it get taken? It was about 2012.
Yeah. Well, probably before then because it went bust in 2013. So
was it? Yeah. So it went bust, and all their Bitcoin got seized, and all the people lost their Bitcoin. And this is actually a question which Mr. Orland may be able to answer: is the creditors for Mt. Gox in this series of tweets, are they the people, or is this something else?
No, these will be. It's not the people. Yeah, it is. It's the creditors. It's the people that or the liquidators.
Yeah.
The people that have taken the Mt. Gox assets. Like I think it was last week I talked through this where they have the Bitcoin, but the people that are owed money, they will get paid in dollars.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they are in
So
the
they're going to
process
liquidate
of
it and then give them the price what it was in 2013.
yeah.
Oof, that is painful.
There are some people, and I don't know if this ever happened, but through the jobs that we do, I ended up on a call with one that was going to give them the option. So I actually spoke to one of the companies involved in the stuff, and they were going to give the people that were owed the option. And I think they realized that if they did that, they would be screwed because of the price of Bitcoin now versus the price of Bitcoin back then, and they wouldn't have enough to satisfy the original claim. But they were essentially their plan was originally to be like, if you had 10 Bitcoin, you get 10 Bitcoin. But then they realized it doesn't work like that because the
No.
Bitcoin that was stolen has disappeared
Yeah.
and they haven't got enough Bitcoin to then share amongst it all. So,
but even if they could give literally 50% or something, just be a way to do it. I don't know what could be possible, but they won't. It'll be the price. So the speculation is that all that Bitcoin gets sold and it causes a price fluctuation. People have preempted it and sold their Bitcoin already to basically wait for the dip on the other side. Once it all gets sold, they then buy and they make profit. But, as we always say on the show, do you really want to take that risk?
yeah.
Are you brave enough? Are you intelligent enough to play the market?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a risk that you're going to take, is it? But I think it's definitely been a factor. But it's not the
but,
only reason, though, is it?
But I think it's a typical trader, shitcoiner view, isn't it? So you kind of go, are you willing to take that risk as a pure Bitcoiner? No. If you're a shitcoiner, someone like, I don't know, Dan Held or Pedro, I think this is the kind of thing which I imagine they'd be doing because they don't quite realize how stupid they are.
Yeah.
The next one is Germany, isn't it? So this is another load of. Oh no, actually, it's
ETF.
Bitcoin. Well, the ETF means nothing, so they're just saying it's more dependent on large investors. But my understanding is they haven't sold, so it's a non-factor.
Well, yeah. Well, no, this thread actually says that they have sold, and that as of this month, it was a larger outflow of Bitcoin, so they actually sold more than they bought this month.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not by a huge amount, but
But
it is sell pressure.
And then he talks about miners, the fact the price hasn't zoomed up where they need it to be, with the reward being half, so therefore they can't make a profit on it. But I suppose this is it. If they can't afford to go, they stop. So people continue. They get more Bitcoin rewards when they keep on mining, and that's basically how the market works. So all these miners will seek the cheapest electricity. They'd be finding that little dam. They'll be setting up their own little turbine. They'll be trying to get that cheap asset electricity so they can win it. And I think he's trying to, I suppose he's just explaining all the points, but it is a positive because this is how we move forward. If things turn into a struggle, too expensive, you find a way around it and we innovate.
Well, this halving one, it happens every halving, right? Because the miners clearly have fixed costs. And say their costs are, let's just say they're, I don't know, let's just say they're 100 grand a month. And then, and they're receiving, 6.25 Bitcoin every block that they mine. And the halving happens, and suddenly their income gets halved. It goes down to 3.155 or something. And then, so clearly they are now making half as much money. So if you're making half as much, they're likely going to have to go into their reserves to pay for their costs whilst they kind of figure out their activity. And what tends to happen, the big mining operations that are using energy that is too expensive, they fundamentally they exhaust all their reserves, and then they go bust and they shut down, and that releases, a load of hash power disappears from the network, but then suddenly that means it's an opportunity for someone else to come in and grab some of that hash power and make some money if they have access to cheap power. And it literally just refines how good people are at mining as time goes on. But this isn't anything new. Obviously that the halving typically is a boom period for price, but this is kind of overlooked really because as a miner, you hate the halving.
Mm.
It's horrible. You literally your income gets halved every time this happens. So a
But
load of
but
miners go bust and they have to sell their Bitcoin to pay for their operation.
but it never goes parabolic straight away.
No,
So it's not like we're really following a bad trajectory. On previous halvings, my understanding is we're not exactly that far off the curve of the previous.
no, literally, our next story literally goes into exactly that. And
Yeah.
so,
I was just about to say jumping ahead, but like, yeah, it is. We had the preemptive price rise because of the ETFs, which kind of negates some of that growth that you would have got from the halving. And it's like, actually, we're
Yeah,
probably about where we should be.
it would look amazing if we had that factored into this halving, but obviously it appeared afterwards. So
Yeah.
kind of like it played about with the charts a little bit. So you're right. The next one, US interest rates. So this is simply that if you've got money which costs you nothing to borrow, so low interest rates over time, you're more likely to put it into attractive high risk investments. So we're saying this is a factor because government printed loads of money over the lockdowns, and literally they have two tools in their box. When things start to go absolutely mental, they pull up the interest rates, and when the interest rates aren't needed, they then pull up the inflation. So it's literally we're currently on the interest rates at the moment, and then it'll go to mass inflation again and cheap money. So it'll just be round and round and round, natural cycle of life until the dollar dies. So saying that until this moves to lower rates, it's not going to be as many as one of the theories, which is interesting. So I haven't actually thought about that.
hmm.
And I think the final one
Well, before,
is
before you move on, I do think that is a great psyop, by the way, because yeah, okay, fine. Most people could get 5% interest on their money right now, and you think that's free. But then really, we know that inflation is probably at 10-20% if you factor it over the last couple of years and do some averaging. So
Yeah.
it probably means you're roughly, even if you're making 5% on your money, you're probably at least 10% down anyway, even though the actual value of the
so
money is going up, the
you're
spending
telling me my
power.
bond investment's not very good, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, exactly.
No, the government wouldn't lie to me.
But it's a great psyop, I think, where you go, oh no, but like knock interest rates down to say between 0 and 2, and then suddenly people then go, oh, I'm not making any money now, and they go off and start gambling their money. So if I was a government and I'd learned from this situation, the difference in what the interest rate is and actually what inflation is, there's such a gulf. Like they say they largely match up, right? So if interest rates are 5%, then technically that should mean inflation is also around 5%. And so you're largely keeping up with inflation, right? That's a lie. If interest rates are 5%, it means inflation is at
Well,
least 10.
they did it for a little bit, and then they was it in the 2000s. They completely unhinged them from each other, didn't they?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
they
but
did
it's
try and play with the Keynesian theory for a number of years, and obviously they printed shitloads through the 70s and 80s when we found the printing press, and in the 90s they kind of went, let's have it matching, and in the 2000s they just basically went, fuck it, free money to everyone and have mass inflation, low interest, and kept it there for 15 years, I want to say. But it's all Keynesian bullshit anyway.
yeah, but it's interesting though, isn't it, that whether the interest rates were zero, like inflation was not zero, like inflation was still 10%. Yet people are
Mm.
now they're not going to leave the money in the system and they're going to go gamble. So 0% interest rates is not something if I was a government I would do because it encourages people to take money out of the banks and go gamble it because they might as well instead of let their money rot. Whereas if you give people 5%, really when inflation is still 15, you're still stealing that 10%. It's the same amount you're stealing, but you're
Yeah.
giving them a little 5% on the side, and everyone thinks, oh, my money is safe as houses and is growing in the bank. It's kind of genius, right? You're still stealing the same amount, but you're just giving them a few crumbs, and then people trust the system and leave the money in banks and don't put it in Bitcoin because they don't feel they need to escape a system that is rewarding them 5% a year. If I was a government, I would never have interest rates below 5% ever,
Yeah.
based on just the last 5 years of behaviors. And that I could literally, if I was a government, I would literally just do that, and it would block a lot of people even seeking out what the solution is. I think 0% interest rates. It took probably about 5 years or something of it being at zero for people to finally go, how the fuck do I get my money to work for me?
Yeah.
And a lot of people found, unfortunately, crypto and shitcoins, and they went and lost all their money. But I think a lot of people on that journey also found Bitcoin and then will never go back. So yeah, hopefully they don't figure that one out because I don't know. Literally just giving people a fake 5% whilst inflating the money by 15. Yeah, you'll keep a lot of these NPCs in the system, and they'll it's literally like the frog in the boiling water. They don't realize they're being boiled until it's too late. They're like, oh no, I can't
But
be poor. I've got 50 grand in the bank. It's like, Doris, 50 grand buys your loaf of bread now.
Yeah.
You're not 12 anymore. You're 85, and inflation has got so bad. Your 50 grand is a piece of shit.
That story is the story that I was using 5 years ago to explain very simply why I was interested in Bitcoin. Like, it's not, but it was like the redacted simple version. And like you say, the argument now will be, oh well, I can get 7% in a ISA saver with Halifax, and you're like, you're still
oh,
losing, like you're still losing double that,
funnily enough, I had this conversation in work, and it was about premium bonds. So I was speaking to someone, he's still fairly young, and he's saying he put some money into premium bonds, and I'm like, why have you done that? Oh, because was it 1 in 20,000 chance of winning a prize? I'm like, but most of those prizes are like literally £50. So if you put a grand in, you're getting less than a 5% chance. Literally, you might as well put it into a bond, or you might as well put it into the S&P. Literally, whether you want to play the lottery, go and buy a lottery
Yeah, I
ticket
was
and
gonna
go
say you might
kid
as well go buy a
yourself.
scratch card, mate.
Mm.
And like, I think he just went, oh, I don't know who would advise him to do this, but next time, I was messaging him that evening, sent him invest in the S&P, invest in the world index, like two things which are roughly about 10% if you're going to start investing.
And also
Don't
buy Bitcoin.
He isn't ready for Bitcoin yet.
Yeah, it's fair
Really
enough. You
isn't
need you
ready.
need to get him off. Because to be fair, he's already got the right idea. He's going, I need to do more of my money. So
Yeah,
that's a good first step to go, this system
exactly.
isn't working
But
for
when
me.
you but when you're pissing around with premium bonds and so on,
Hmm.
you're very lost in what you're doing. Um,
Yeah, like we all were, like back when we were young, right?
yeah,
Bitcoin was around when we were looking for this kind of stuff, and we didn't find it. We were looking for these little, or maybe you do put 10% of your money in premium bonds, some in the S&P, some in some blue chip stocks, then some in some of these risky stocks, and have a balanced portfolio. That's how we started out, and we weren't 19 when we're doing that. We're like between 25 and freaking 30. And
Yeah.
then look where we are now, fucking degenning all into Bitcoin.
yeah.
It
I was
is.
going to say having franchises underneath McDonald's in order to earn extra scratch for Sats.
Yeah. It's a good opportunity to drop my one of my favorite phrases, which is the dildo of consequence rarely arrives lubed, and that dildo is coming for so many people. Like
Yeah,
it is fucking coming, and it's not going
yeah,
to be lubed. When you're sitting there
yes.
and you've got your mortgage up for renewal, or you're renegotiating your car finance, or any of that kind of stuff at the moment, it's going to be so grim, and you're going to realize how your little 2.5% wage rise is just not even close to covering what's next.
Well, this is, what people say, when they get an inflation rise, it's not covering what they've seen, a rise in living, but it is like companies can't afford to keep up now, can they?
It's
which
not
is
even so much about that. It's just that's why you should be doing something else with your money that isn't premium bonds, you
yeah,
know?
but it is like a massive like giant Ponzi scheme, and no one seems to realize. But I think people are starting to realize now, which is yeah why the government would be wise to lock people on higher interest rates, like Mr. Orlin said. So back to this story, the final one is Germany. So Germany has a chunk of Bitcoin. And I'm guessing it's seizures or something. I don't really know why it's got hold of it. And I think in this article, it's 2,000 and something. But I've read elsewhere, it's well over 5,000, which are basically selling. So another bit, they're selling off bit by bit by bit. So it could be you've got all these factors adding up together in order to give you Bitcoin. So some people sold because of
I
the
hate to tell
looming
you, but
Mt. Gox.
it's actually 50,000 Bitcoin they have.
Yeah, I was just about to say because the next article tracks what's in their wallet. They've sold the best part of what 30,000 Bitcoin over the last.
Oh God, have you put this one in lately?
Yeah, I put this in today, yeah, where someone's actually
Yeah.
tracking the German government
Yeah,
wallet.
So yeah, I've probably seen the story, and I've said 5,000 instead of 50,000. Then I'm guessing because I realised it was higher.
that's
So
the
yeah,
one.
so yeah, it leads nicely on, doesn't it? Perfectly.
Yeah,
Yeah, I must have seen. I haven't seen this one, but I've definitely seen something similar.
yeah. This is almost like the too long didn't read of that whole tweet thread, really, of oh,
Yeah,
why is the price going down? And yeah, the answer is there's more sellers than buyers. We just go, and normally we don't know who the sellers are. In this instance, we do know the German government had an intention of selling Bitcoin. We mentioned it on this pod before they had sold any. But as of June 17th, which is only 3 weeks ago, they had roughly 50,000 Bitcoin. As of today, they only have 22,000 Bitcoin left. So they have been selling a hell of a lot of Bitcoin every single day. They have been ratcheting through it. Specifically July 6th to July 8th. So for some reason there's a day missing there, but there's nearly
yeah.
So
10,000 Bitcoin difference. So they started selling about 2,000 Bitcoin a day, and they seem to have rammed it up to about 5,000 Bitcoin a day in recent days.
so they
So
were sitting on about 2.5 billion.
yeah,
So I suppose my kind of question is I've seen the figures and like some of the stats around the US government, 2.5 billion. How many days would that run the German government for?
Do,
probably about three.
yeah. Do you know what's funny though? And it's a tangent to what you're saying. The first reply underneath that. Did you see that, guys? From
How
Money
much more poor
Fixer?
can they get?
What's that?
How much poor can they get?
Um, I don't know if your replies are the same. Okay. So my reply is a guy basically saying that our timelines must have loaded. Oh no, there, Money Fixer. It just goes to he basically says now tell me governments are fit to handle money. He was like, if you'd have just put a simple limit order and like selling every time it hits 70K, they'd have made an extra like 1 point whatever billion. And like they've just dumped it instead of like selling it smartly.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know,
This
they've
is
just
something
gone,
that the
fucking
Mount
dump
Gox,
this.
like literally the Mount Gox creditors, because they've Mount Gox have sold before, right? And they do not sell in these volumes this quickly because it
No.
is known as being reckless. You are not making the most money for the creditors, so you're
Yeah.
not fulfilling your fiduciary responsibility of getting the most money for the asset that you're in control of. Because by dumping 2 to 5,000 Bitcoin per day, clearly is going to affect the price, which means tomorrow you're going to sell another 2 to 5,000 Bitcoin at a 10% discount.
Yeah.
And then again and again and again, you're supposed to sell much less Bitcoin over a more staggered time frame. So essentially you DCA out.
Out.
So
Yeah.
they're trying to sell 50,000 Bitcoin here. They've sold half of it within 3 weeks. So it means they're going to sell, yeah, $2.5 billion worth of Bitcoin largely in a month.
Yeah.
That is very reckless. It's not getting the most money for the German citizens. And is well, seemingly it looks like it's a almost an attack on Bitcoin to be saying this fast, right? You just go in, you that's nuts. You know,
It just makes no, it literally makes no sense. Like, yes, it's a lot of money, but in the context of the amount of money it takes to run a country, it's a drop in the ocean. So you would literally just sell that over a elongated period of time, almost to an extent where the market doesn't even notice it's happening,
Yeah.
and you just maximize your return on it. If anything, you make even more on it because the price will appreciate over that period of time that you're selling it. It's just,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like that. Like I said, that first reply, I was just like, right, yeah, tell me the governments know how to handle money, and that literally shows that they don't have a fucking clue what they're doing,
Well,
unless it's an attack. But it's only a temporary attack. 4 more days, all their bitcoins out, the price will start to come back.
Yeah.
but then it's the follow up, which it kind of knits across three stories, doesn't it? Because I don't really want to go into the comments, which we'll all say about the next one, which is German Member of Parliament Joanna Qatar in a
Yeah,
letter to the German government, instead of holding Bitcoin as a strategic reserve currency, as has already been debated in the USA, our government is selling on a large scale. This is not only not sensible but counterproductive. So really, really interesting on this one because you're kind of going, you're selling Bitcoin, a scarce asset, for
mm,
something which, well, they can no longer print on their own because they're part of the EU, but something which doesn't really have any value, isn't scarce, and ultimately it can be printed at any time. And also, they get handed out these free notes, don't they? When the EU do follow it, or we're getting a follow there. But it is in German, so I don't know how many of the tweets you'll understand.
It's just it's a sympathy follow, like fair play.
yeah,
If she genuinely said all this, and there's 88 of people I follow or to already follow her, so I'll join the
yeah.
crowd.
I mean, she's invited to attend this lecture, which is happening on October the 17th. It's going to be too late for Germany by then, the way this is trending. But it's definitely interesting. They're not going to listen though.
No,
It's noise.
it's almost like how we were talking about, ex-politicians before we started the pod, that these people like Joanna here, there's plenty of examples where people talk a good game when they're new, they're fresh, they're in, they have these great ideas. Guarantee if good old Joanna ever gets anywhere near being in power, she'll either get eaten alive and get called a racist and we'll never hear of her again, or she'll get into power and just carry on the same financial policies that have been come before because she'll be co-opted to go, you've got a great following now where people believe that you're going to change stuff. That's fantastic. We're going to use that. You're not going to do any of it. You're going to do this, but keep saying this stuff because people fucking love it. Unfortunately, we see this across politics all the time. The people that aren't in power, the people that are on the lower rungs, so often talk so much good sense, and they genuinely are in politics for the right reasons. They want to improve stuff. But if you continue on that vein, you're not getting anywhere near the top. You'll
No
get
one
eaten
knew.
alive unless you agree to bend the knee and lie. So, oh well, there's Germany, eh? Because
There's Germany.
at the end of the day, I'm glad. I would much rather, like, for the sake of like Germany having 50,000 Bitcoin, like the German government, I don't want them to have 50,000 Bitcoin anyway. Two and
So
a
they've
half
got no
million.
control then, have they? They're basically in debt. They have no Bitcoin for holdings. And I
Yeah,
suppose it is sometimes you've got to take the pain to flush out all the kind of like sewage, haven't you? And
yeah.
this is sewage.
What's brilliant about this is that they've sold like well over $1 billion worth of Bitcoin inside of 3 weeks. What's that done to the Bitcoin price? We're down 20%.
Yeah,
Like, what else? Like, literally, that is barely anything, right? And especially if we go to our next story, with any bull market, I think sometimes we forget there's lots of pullbacks during a bull market anyway. In 2017, when we went from 1K to 20K, it wasn't a straight line. We went to 3K, then down to one again. Then from 1K right to six, and then came back down to two. Then from two to 10, and then came back to six. Then from six to 15, came back to 10. These are 30 to 40 to 50% drawbacks constantly. And then
yeah,
eventually we hit 20K and come all the way back down to three again, and then pump all the way up to 69K. Right? Even in a bull market, we have pullbacks. It's just very easy to forget it. And like in reality, we are in a bull market right now. We've gone from, what was it, the 25Ks all the way up to 70. We've pulled back, to about 50K. That's nothing. A little
Yeah.
20% pullback, that's just a correction. And obviously, usually that is almost like normally like these pullbacks are largely like there's no real reason for it. It's just we've run out of buyers, like literally. And then there's just the traders that like knocking the price around, like to knock it down just so they can make a trade and short it and then pump it again. In this instance, there's genuinely 2.5 billion that we can literally put our finger on. We can track a wallet, are actively selling, which clearly is creating a fuck ton of sell pressure. And you go, there's a load of people also just fed up with Bitcoin at the moment. They're bored and they're selling as well. And they will likely not come back for quite a while because that's what always happens, right? People lose the faith. And like in every halving, that's why we have these 30 to 50% pullbacks. People get shaken out of the market. And in this instance, what this kind of shows me really is that this 20% dip, there's all those factors. The only people selling are them.
Mm.
There's hardly any other Bitcoiners getting shaken out because otherwise we'd have had a 50% dip. It's dipped
Yeah.
20 and then just stays there. Usually it's like, oh, we dipped 10, we dipped 20, and then, oh, fuck, another 10, another 20. And it's really painful.
Fucking blood in the streets.
Yeah.
The
But
memes going round the
I think we've
chat.
just got a load of fucking diamond-handed hodlers now, where
Yeah.
clearly we know these people are, lettuce hands. They were never going to hold. They were always going to sell. They're state-run assets, or it's Mount Gox, which literally are legally obligated to have to sell that Bitcoin. So yeah, literally it looks like they're the only sellers, which is fucking fantastic. We've got status actors or liquidators selling Bitcoin at the moment, and that's why the price is down. You go, fucking brilliant. Because once those guys are out, that means the rest of the market's still buying. So it's kind of crazy bullish.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
um, but yeah, our next story, it just this is from Pierre. So obviously Pierre's been on the pod a few times. He's used to work at Kraken. I tried to get his job. They wouldn't give it me. But anyway, we'll have a look at his chart. So this is something we were talking about last week largely, where you've got all these halvings on here. So the 2016, 2020, and the 2024, the three previous halvings, and you've got all these big peaks and troughs and da da da. You're going to go, well, hold on, what where are we now? And it's like, well, yeah, the chart he's got here kind of starts when the or ends when the halving kind of happens. So down in this bottom left-hand corner, this tiny little orange graph, right down here, this is the current halving cycle that we're on. Post-halving, where are we? And because as you can see, it's after the halving where the price goes rocketing up, in that first year. Then we have a correction in the next year, and we largely then pump back in the year after that. So this year after the halving where we pump, typically it goes sideways for a little bit, if not down, in those first couple of months. And that's largely where we are. And so this little tiny orange graph is what we're all the price discussion is on this first like little
Yeah.
half an inch out of this graph, and we're like, oh, people are bearish on Bitcoin. This halving cycle isn't working out like the others. Well, let's wait. Let's wait 6 months to a year before we even comment, really, because chances are, oh man, that I hate charts like this. I hate models, but it doesn't half get me bullish. I want to believe. I want to
Well,
believe in charts when I see a chart like this.
but I suppose the point is, we've never had a big sell-off at this point of the cycle, have we? Like we have from the German government,
Well, we've had bigger price depreciations before
Yeah.
but
than
not
than
this
that.
not this part of the cycle.
It's all
Yeah,
relative, isn't it? Like you can
yeah.
talk in
Well,
percentages or you can talk in numbers. Like it's
Yeah,
is it are we worried about a 20% drop or are we worried about the volume of Bitcoin that's being sold? But it's relative to the
yeah.
market and
yeah.
it's not
And
been
It's
up
chances
for
just
are,
a
like the
while.
volume of Bitcoin, like 50,000 Bitcoin has been sold probably many times before. It's just that 50,000 Bitcoin wasn't 2.5 billion back then.
Yeah.
and
So
it was
it's
also
probably like
probably
500
sold.
million. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it was probably sold at where it was seen as a peak.
Mm.
Whereas at the moment it's sold in the build up. Like the German government have sold it at a ridiculous time when you're kind of going, oh, when should we sell it? Should we wait, so we're 1 to 2 years in? Because we don't really need a billion and a half. No, we'll sell it now because we don't really need it, but we'll just sell it. It just makes no sense. Like, that tweet said below the first story. So you just think if they'd waited a year to 2 years after a halving, you're most probably going to have an all-time high to sell on, and you'd make double, treble that money.
That zoom in is class, by the way. It's so good because you can see the red. I mean, I hate charts too, but you can see the red had a dip,
Yeah.
but we actually had a pump. So it's like the opposite, and that's the ETF stuff, isn't it? That's the pre.
Yeah.
That's all that noise, and it's almost like it's just bringing us back to. It's almost like you want to start the graph from where we are now. That's where we should be, but
Yeah.
yeah,
It's almost like every other, like, what is it, 2016 and 2024, they never went below the price pre-halving. It just,
no,
these blue and green lines just stayed above zero and just went freaking parabolic pretty fast. Whereas the red line, which represents the 2020 halving, that goes significantly down
yeah,
and stays down for quite a while and then goes parabolic. So we're largely, it looks like every other, we're following that line, we're following 2020's halving.
yeah.
We're going to stay below this line for a little bit. And yeah, if these graphs remain true, Christ, if we put the price across the side of this,
Don't get excited.
it will say $1 million Bitcoin on there. It just will. If the line goes up that steeply on Bitcoin already at 50K, when we're below the line, by the way, we're below the line and it's at 50K. This is like, we're below the halving price, and we're at 50K. Christ, even if we only get halfway up that chart, that's $500,000.
Oh, this is why we don't really talk about price because it's why we found Bitcoin because we were looking for that solution. But it's not. It's like you said to me, and I've said the last few times that I've been on here, like you just wanted to get me excited by the charts and the price, and then you get into it, and it becomes more than that. It's the fundamentals. It's the
revolution.
Yeah, viva la revolution. But it's all that kind of stuff, and this is the chart that you might use to get people excited about it, but it's actually irrelevant. It's noise.
Yeah, but that's the beautiful thing about Bitcoin. It's in politics and in macroeconomics and whatever you might say, you can have a million debates and have a million arguments with people, and it turns out you were right. But what's the point in being right when the other person will never really concede that you were right?
No.
And you might have a little bit of internal satisfaction that you were right on that issue, but it doesn't change your life. It was largely a waste of time debating these topics and proving that, your view on the government was right and someone else's was wrong. Like largely, like who cares? But when the next evolution of money comes along and you go, that's the next one. The beautiful thing about being right there, you don't even need to say, I told you so.
No.
You don't even need anyone to confess or concede that they were wrong. If you predict the right form, the next evolution of money, and you got in there a decade early, literally, like the joke on this pod, they will be cleaning the boat that sits inside your main boat. And
but that also loops back around, right? So yes, it would be exciting. Yes, the numbers are ridiculous, but are you selling all your Bitcoin at $1 million a coin?
Oh, of course not.
Well, there you go. So price also kind of irrelevant, in that context of.
But am I potentially buying a boat that can have a boat in it? Also, yes.
Yeah, also yes. Am I unashamedly driving around in a Lamborghini that I said I would never buy? Yeah, I might do that.
And I buy a Lamborghini and build a ramp and just drive it straight off the edge of the boat into the sea.
And then pay for it to be recovered and do it again.
I'd buy another one.
See, you're saying all this.
I'll buy 10 and just fire them all off the side of the boat.
Like Hot Wheels. Mr. Alvin playing
I'll do
Hot
a loop
Wheels
the
on
loop
his
in it
boat.
and just wow. I'll set fire to it as well as I drive it.
I just don't think I could adjust to that. I'd still be in the mentality of like, I'm not spending that.
Of course, I know. But that'd be my 50th.
Yeah, I'd be like,
Let's
maybe I'll
sell
buy.
no, let's sell like 1,000 sats, buy 10 Lambos, and just fire them off a boat. Why not?
I'd be like, if I sold a fraction of it, if I sold a fraction of a sat, I could buy a 1-year-old electric Golf.
You could,
I'm
like,
definitely coming
could
with
you
you to do
could
that.
buy Volkswagen.
Just do it with. Oh, actually, no, there's too much polluting in the sea. I'm not comfortable. Goes against our
You could
green
buy
policy.
well, you could buy every single Prius and just drive it off a cliff.
It's like the Top Gear episode when Clarkson starts to come around to having a caravan. He parks it on the edge of the cliff and he's sitting there having a cup of tea and they push it off.
Yeah.
You'd be like, you do a drive with the Prius. You actually start to get a little bit attached to it, and then Ross would just push it off.
It's one of them.
Yeah,
That's the thing. Like the beautiful thing is about obviously with Bitcoin and obviously like hodling throughout this very critical stage before we hit Bitcoin hyperinization clearly is extremely important. But it's important to remember that money or like what it's supposed to do is it's still just a medium of exchange.
yeah.
It isn't something that should be just hodled forever under your bed. It should provide a comfortable life for you and your family, and that's what it should do. So we're allowed to enjoy some of the fruits of our labor as we go. But obviously, it's very critical. We are an extremely important generation because until we hit almost like dollar and sat parity, then Bitcoin is severely underpriced. So every time we do exchange Bitcoin for goods and services, we are stealing our future generations of potentially houses. But you almost can't get too stuck into that. You have to live your life. Life is short. We need to enjoy our life as well. And yeah, clearly, the Lambo stuff is a joke. That's spending it on that. You go out and spend 200 grand on a Lambo. Seriously, what would that be now? That's about 4 Bitcoin. That 4 Bitcoin, if you go down to your grandkids, would probably make them almost one of the richest people on the planet.
It's
And
insane.
and you're just going to get a Lambo for it, right? But that could have been like the equivalent of 100 million in 50 years time. And you go, oh, okay, that's not a fair exchange. Unless you have 4 Bitcoin to burn and you're sat there with 50,000 Bitcoin, knock yourself out. Yeah. But unless you're a billionaire, it's annoying because we have to be a little bit sensible, but it's good to dream. I like to just like almost have a whiskey and just talk about what I almost what's it called, like my inner Conor McGregor, just like live it out. If I was him, what would I be doing right now? And it would be firing Lambos off boats. But I am not Conor McGregor, so I
No.
am instead in a little farm in the middle of the UK, being very sensible.
Until it gets to a silly price, and then you're talking like what 100 sats for a Lambo, you'd be tempted.
I said a
Yeah,
thousand,
yeah, wow, a thousand sats for
maybe
a
even
Lambo.
10,000.
But you could get an electric.
Yeah, maybe 15,000 sats would do a Lambo for 15,000 sats.
I was going to say you could get an electric Golf for cheaper.
I know, but it wouldn't
Funny
look as good
though.
flying off the back of a yacht, would it?
Yeah, and you need the orange track if you're gonna do it. It would have to be like Hot Wheels orange.
Oh man, I might even use a celebrity. Oh, I'll get Joey Essex to drive it and fucking drown the fucker.
Of all the people you could have picked, straight to him.
Just use the first dickhead that I could think of.
Brilliant.
All right, sweet. Oh my God, yeah. So next final, no, second to final story. So we've got a politician here, and I will actually play this clip. It's 2 minutes long, but I think it's really good, so I'm going to play it.
I think you got it wrong too. Look, in the end, I got into politics over three matters: that your government rode an enormous credit boom within which the money supply tripled, leading into the global financial crisis, a massively manufacturing injustice, a sense of injustice which has led to many of our subsequent troubles. I got into politics because of extraordinary rendition, our complicity in it, in torture, which you were party to. And I got into it because your party brought forward the Lisbon Treaty to avoid having a referendum on the Constitution for Europe. And if only you'd had a referendum on the Constitution for Europe or the Lisbon Treaty, we'd never have got here, Ed. So, you know, I'm happy to debate you any day, but I prefer...
Goodness me, Mr. Baker, I have to say, you know, it's 2024. You've just lost your seat in your constituency. You've sort of thought of 3 different things but were all happened over 17 years ago. Are you maybe in denial?
Well, no, not at all. I mean, you know as well as I do that these big treaty changes with the European Union, and indeed the monetary system post-Bretton Woods, is 50 years old, it's now breaking down. And I'm afraid you and George are as bad as each other on this particular score. Neither of you ever really understood monetary economics. And I've wasted a lot of breath in the House of Commons trying to explain to George in particular what was going on and the kind of injustice it was manufacturing. Well, much good did it do everybody. And now with the nation seething with a sense of injustice, economic injustice, of course they are. They can't afford house prices if they're young. Why? Because cheap credit was pumped into a housing market in which supply was constrained by planning laws, about which neither of you did anything. So, you know, at last, as I say, I'm free, thank God.
Go on, Mr. Baker, tell us what you really think.
Oh, I'm glad to, yeah.
What
I'm
do you
happy
think?
man.
Okay,
but not for those staff, not for the 1,000 staff who've lost their jobs,
yeah.
And not for the country, which is now going to have an absolutely miserable time under a Labour government, which, by the way, candidates have said that austerity, George's austerity, was a choice. Well, I always accepted it wasn't a choice, it was necessary. But what we're now going to find is poor Rachel Reeves, who seems to look more miserable every time I see her on TV, is going to have to do austerity. And she's going to have to do austerity with these Labour MPs who all told the public it was a choice. It's going to be an absolute circus.
And there is a politician with the gloves off. He's just been voted out. He's a Conservative. He's just lost his seat to Labour. And there he is, going absolutely ham, just going, oh, I don't even care. I'm glad. I'm free of this bullshit now. And you know, the amount of irresponsible money printing that we did, the fact that house prices were manipulated by pumping loads of money into housing and investing, whilst also putting loads of regulation on the building of properties. And I love the fact that he goes, oh, and the biggest lie that the British public have been told, that austerity was a choice. You know, it was an absolute necessity, and it needs to come again. And we've just voted in a government that says they will never do austerity, yet they're going to have to. So it's going to be a complete circus going forward, because we've got a government that now says they're going to just spend and fix everything. Yet that everybody knows that the country is largely bankrupt, and they're going to have to cut costs to get themselves out of this, or just print irresponsibly yet again and just kick the can down the road. And yeah, I love that there's ex-politicians sat in the studio that he's calling to, but they're clearly still on the payroll in some shape or form, going, oh, you're talking nonsense. But this guy is angry, he's emotional, he's just lost his seat, he's just lost his job, he's got 1,000 employees that now have all lost their jobs as well, and he's just going, I'm just throwing it all at the fire, and I'm walking away from this bullshit. Because I think he's probably one of the examples of a guy that actually goes into politics to make a change, and he's realized no one's here to make change. Everyone that gets voted in is saying the same lies and bullshit. And he's just had a freaking truth moment. And he's like, I know I'm setting my career on fire here, because this is a lot of the stuff you're not meant to say, but I'm going to say it, because I'm never fucking doing this shit again. Yeah. And yeah, good to see, I thought.
He if I remember rightly, and I only watched the clip once, very quickly, he's actually arguing with someone that was within his own party, saying, I stood up. So it's not even like he's arguing with the opposition.
No.
He's arguing with someone in his own party saying, I stood up and I told you this. And he's literally pointing at him saying, you didn't listen. It's brilliant. It's so good. I mean, I've got no affiliation either way. whatsoever.
So do you reckon where do you reckon he's on the Bitcoin curve?
I mean, he's Mr. All-In's brother at this point right now. He's
Well, I
fine, isn't
feel
he?
like this guy, like he knows it's all a bloody con, but he hasn't found the asset which is going to set him free. Is where I'm coming at. As he hasn't mentioned or talked about anything Bitcoin. So if he's a Bitcoiner already, and
No,
he knows that he's out and he wants to sell this, he would have thrown in something around Bitcoin.
he's
So
buying gold. He's definitely a gold bug. He's
Yeah,
got gold bug written all over him.
he'll be pumping money into his pension, into
Yeah,
a bit of gold and
yeah,
no, but he
a bit of
knows not to
property.
do. He won't
Actually,
touch
he
his
knows
pension.
property is artificially underpinned by foreign investment and a lack of new properties being built.
And
So
he can't put it into pension. So this is the point where this guy could literally be within a year and come out and say, but he's a full-on Bitcoiner.
yeah, he's well on the way. Yeah, yeah. I'd imagine he's probably in property, gold, and pensions right
yeah.
now.
I imagine
But
the pensions, with what he said, I don't think he'll be investing in that.
yeah, yeah,
Property, like you said, he knows too much.
yeah. Well, he knows that property is provided you're not just living in the property and you are just buying and selling it and as an asset. Yeah, clearly when the system is gamifying that asset goes up, then yeah, why not play that game and just but you need a lot of available cash, right? And who knows how rich this guy is? If this guy is an honest politician, then most MPs get, what is it, 40, 50, 60 grand a year? It's fucking nothing. That's not going to buy you a lot of homes if you barely before pays for one.
You get your second home allowance. So that's how they
Yeah.
gamify the system. So like they have their one at home. And then they also have like various other bits of income which are allowed to bring in. And then they get a second. So literally the government is paying a second mortgage for them. So
Yeah,
he'll have a property in London as well. So he've made some money, but he won't
Yeah.
be super.
yeah,
You
and
know, it doesn't look like a trust fund child like Boris or Cameron.
No.
no, because he wouldn't have gone scorched earth like that if he was.
No, she would
He'll
have
be
been
towing
part
the
of.
line and trying to get back into the government in some shape or form, sitting in the back benches. Because he would also know if you're really, really in the inner circle, you just go, oh, we're just handing the baton to them for a few years.
Mm.
Just hang tight. And
Yeah,
they'll throw the
or
baton back our way in a bit, and then we'll come in and change it.
or if you're on me in a circle, we go, oh, why don't you do a nice talk since you haven't got a job anymore? Go and do the talk, 200 grand. And that's money for you. Nice little bit of cash flow for the next
Yeah.
few years.
Yeah,
And
by the
until you
way,
come back.
in 3 years' time, you're going to be foreign secretary and you're going to pass this bill. That's in the fine
It,
print of this 200K speaking gig you
it,
get. And by the way, there's never 10 of those speaking gigs coming, but this is the bill we need passing. Yeah.
Yeah, I've
exactly.
just done a very quick Google and the like declarations and stuff they make. Basically, on one article it says he doesn't have like any significant net worth to even register.
There you go.
Yeah.
You
So
So
can
this
always
is just
tell you can tell someone that's poor because they've got nothing to lose.
nothing to lose.
If he had like 100 million stashed away in various investments and banks, he wouldn't be talking like that. Because they're like he would know that the people that matter could take it from him.
I mean, he took some tickets to Wembley worth 720 quid as a gift, which he had to declare in May. um, but yeah, nothing really.
Yeah, it's anyway. All right, cool. From one scam to the next, we go on to our last story of the week, shall we? So we've got Celsius here, and man, Celsius, like to talk about balls, right? Clearly, anyone that doesn't remember Celsius, they were the what they call it now? Um, God, I've forgotten the crypto term for it. What's another name for savings, but in crypto terms?
DeFi.
Yield, yield.
Oh,
Oh,
yield.
right.
Yeah, so you get yield from your Bitcoin, right? They were promising 10, 20, 30% yield on your Bitcoin if you deposit with them, and also a load of shit coins. And surprise, surprise, they went bust because the only way they were paying these interest rates that were crazy high was gambling your Bitcoin. And a lot of it was gambled via good old SBF in FTX and Alameda. So once they all went bust, all the dominoes fell down. So Celsius lost all the Bitcoin that you deposited with them. So in exchange for you getting 10% interest on your Bitcoin, you lost 100% of your Bitcoin. That is not a good trade. So Celsius now are going after 5,000 people that withdrew their money from Celsius within 90 days of their bankruptcy. So imagine withdrawing your funds from a crypto exchange that's been lying about their reserves and they declare bankruptcy days after you escape, and now you're getting sued. So somehow there was a proper class action suit here, and they are listing a load of people in here that withdrew money within 90 days. And right the way up to their bankruptcy, Celsius was claiming they were solvent. Their CEO was on podcast saying everything is fine. It's FUD. Don't listen to the news. It's all nonsense. So clearly the people that didn't believe that and sold within that 90 days and went, nah, I don't trust this platform anymore. I'm getting out. I don't like this. Seemingly they're now getting wrapped up in some type of lawsuit. So I like some of the comments below, which is what they think it might be is the liquidators are essentially trying to they've essentially taken control of a huge amount of assets, even though the Celsius was bankrupt. There's still a lot of money sloshing around in various shit coins and Bitcoin. And what they're trying to do is get their billing hours up. So by suing 5,000 people that were due within 90 days, even though they're going to lose that case, they know they're going to lose it, but they can bill thousands and thousands of hours and take from the pot before the people that genuinely lost their money in there, who are already only going to get probably 10 cents on the dollar, if that, the lawyers are probably going to take most of that and they'll get 1 cent on the dollar by the time these lawyers have had their way with it, because this looks like a nonsensical lawsuit, right? Because unless you've got insider info and you're one of the exec members, then yeah, sure, they can't sell and they should rightly be sued. But 5,000 people, there can't be 5,000 insiders. Some of these are clearly just going to be users that smelt a rat and got out. And some of these people actually wouldn't have even smelt a rat. They'd just be selling because that's what they wanted to do that week. Yeah. And they're now getting sued by the liquidators for doing so, which I don't know on what grounds, because they were fleeing a bankrupted company, which why wouldn't you be able to do that legally?
Does it say, and I couldn't see it, it doesn't say the actual justification, or does it further down? Like what they're actually suing for, or does it just list like that they filed it? I mean, it's also got all these people's personal data just sat there with like email addresses and phone numbers and addresses,
that's
on those screenshots.
It's the worst thing actually about being sued, especially if you're like an anon account. The first thing that happens when you get sued is all your private information. You get completely doxxed.
Yeah.
Literally the first page will be everything about you, pretty much, is just there.
It's outed. Yeah.
Because every single one of these will probably have holdings like Bitcoin and so on, so surely it makes them a target.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is it just a way of exposing? Because if you look at the transaction values on the one that's down there, I mean, there's one in there is legitimately, I mean, if they sue this person, it's hilarious. There's a transaction logged in there for 2 cents. But there are some for like 142,000, 175,000. But there are also transactions in there that are like $2.46. You suing me for what? Like, I took $2.46.
Right. So this Dennis C. Chen, he'll have all his information, and it's talking about the amounts which he's got, and it's got Ethereum, USDC. So he's probably got these on ledgers in his own home, and literally just given all his information, and all of this is available. Bloody hell, I didn't actually realize that.
Yeah, that's what I was saying when you go through. Like,
this is horrendous because, like, you know, if you're a criminal and you kind of go, oh, who are your easy pickings? Let's go through all these people and literally just, you know, sit outside the house, stake, what do they call it? Well, basically stalk them, and then attack. the $5 wrench,
Yeah.
or other $9 wrench attack.
CL White, like that's like there isn't a transaction under like well basically $2,000, but 200K, 200K, 110K, 200K. That does look calculated, but like you say, there might be exec selling in there as well. But 5,000 people with insider knowledge, unless
But
it doesn't make
the
sense.
rumors were swirling around. So these are serious people who had
Yeah,
their crypto on exchange, and they're kind of going, these rumors are swirling around. They're not stupid. Rumors don't just swirl around about a company. When you're going, where's this yield coming from? Oh, you are the yield.
you
It was
are the
always
yield.
going to go. It was always going to go this way. So if you're CL White, you're going to go, fuck this. I've got my fun out of it. I've got 10% for 4 months. Time to go before it goes pop. None of this is
Just
insured as well.
no.
No, of course not. No.
So like
Oh,
CL White, you've got 400, 500, 700,000 and something dollars there, which is it's a retirement fund, all of that. But now that person is most probably got all this crypto at home on ledgers, and they are ripe for being picked off.
it's just yeah, it's just crazy, but it's like it's like Mr. All-In said, what's the motivations behind this other than getting your billing hours up? Because surely this gets tossed. Like I say, I can't see what's the actual what's the case they're building against them, but
They're going for an all in, hoping that it sticks against some people. So literally going, we've got 5,000 people, and then they're seeing who actually responds. There's going to be people who are going, I'm not guilty, versus ones who just ignore it. 'Cause most people won't see this. It's like, say we'd used Celsius, which I bloody wouldn't have. I wouldn't have seen this document properly,
No,
especially if
well,
you moved home.
oh right, yeah. If you moved home, yeah, because obviously part of this is that they will serve you. So
Oh
mm,
yeah, sorry, it's America, isn't it? I always forget the differences.
yeah, they'll literally knock on your door and say, yeah, you've been served. But yeah, if obviously a lot of these people seem to be, well, actually, maybe they've just sued everyone, the American customers.
Yeah, it'll be all the American ones who've left it. Probably had a lot of customers on there. There's a
Yeah,
lot of people looking for easy money.
so they'll be knocking on 5,000 doors serving these people,
just
and it's just
But
horrendous because even to not address it, you largely still need to hire a lawyer and have them write a letter for you and go, I'm not even entertaining this. Like, go fuck yourself.
yeah.
but
And then
we've
they
got
can send you another one and go, no, you need to address this, otherwise, the judgment will just happen without you being there, without a defense. And
well,
yeah,
we've picked out 5,000 people, and we got some high profile ones here with CL White. It was probably like someone else who probably like put in and out $10. So I wonder if they've actually gone for a minimum amount or they've just gone for everyone scorched earth.
yeah. Well, if you're trying to get your billing hours up, yeah,
Yeah, that's what it feels like. It's just the billing hours. You're not going to win this, surely.
yeah. It would be hilarious if they're genuinely suing someone that had, $100 of Bitcoin in there and they sold in that 90-day period and they're being sued for selling that. You just go, okay, that this clearly shows your intention, which is not to be because I guess the overall intention could be is that I don't know what legal law would be being broken. I guess it would be insider knowledge, and I guess the insider knowledge could be Celsius gone bust because fundamentally the traders that they use have gone bust, and it's just a matter of time till Celsius go bust. So therefore, by you selling, you essentially took your money out of the liquidation before you should have. So you could argue that maybe the entire market were insiders. But like
I
I said,
mean,
the company was not admitting any of this. The company was saying
yeah,
everything was fine. So if the company's saying everything's fine, how can you then go, well, this is insider information, the company's bust? It's like, well, that just means the company was lying then the entire time, which is a crime. So
it doesn't take a lot, but that
I
whole
do
concept just
wonder
breaks my brain.
if there are people like Pomp and Peter McCormack in this, because
Oh, right.
there was one where Mr. Parabolic took his money out of something early, didn't he? He got a warning.
Yeah, he'll be. Yeah, I would be surprised. He was an investor in the business as well, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's managed to get his name scrubbed from this list, same as Pomp. But
Yeah,
yeah, that they are known high-profile
Well,
sellers.
I think Pomp just lost his money, didn't he?
Well, I think both Pomp and Mr. Parabolic uh, got their money out, but what they couldn't get back was their investment in the business, and that was the bulk of what they.
yeah,
But the bulk of their money was largely, because they probably only put like say 50, 100K as seed investment into things like Celsius. Oh, it was BlockFi as well, wasn't it? BlockFi is the big one that they were
Block
pumping.
five.
It
Yeah,
wasn't Celsius. They weren't investors in Celsius. They were investors in BlockFi. But where they lost the majority of their money, I reckon they probably had, say, a million or two of cash on the platform.
yeah,
They got that out before the company went bust. But I know Pomp and Mr. Parabolic, they had tens, if not hundreds of millions worth of shares in that business when they were valued at billions. And then
Did
when that
Pomp have that
company,
much cash?
well, no, but he was leading. He came into this space leading a VC fund, and I think had made some money in Bitcoin. And like I said, he probably only put 50 to 100K into BlockFi in the early days, and then a valuation of say 10 million. And when they went bust, they had a valuation in the billions. So that
yeah.
50 to 100K investment is now worth 10, 20, 30, 40 million. And then overnight, the valuation of the company goes to zero. That stings. So he
Massively.
had he had unrealized gains that were wiped off. But he probably likely got his personal Bitcoin that he was putting on there, which but secretly Pomp, I think, is a proper Bitcoiner. He just likes to shield bullshit like this. So let's say he had $1 million of Bitcoin. He may have had 50 grand sat on BlockFi, and he got that 50 grand back off. But he didn't care about that 50 grand really, because he knew he had probably 30 million worth of equity in that business. That's what he wanted. He wanted that company to go public. He wanted to get acquired. And then that was his big payday. And the company went in the toilet instead and went bust before he
Well,
could get out.
the funny thing is, we've had these yield companies, DeFi, whatever you want to call it. They've all gone bust. But then they started trying to bring them back before this cycle began, didn't they?
Oh,
And it's
no,
just like,
what happened here?
yeah, and it's like the same thing will happen. Oh, it was 10% yield. What's the yield? You. It'll happen again, won't it? It won't be the last time, but I suppose less people will be drawn into it. So a lot of people have been stung or seen people get stung by
People
it.
people have short memories, and new people into stuff like this don't know what happened. I don't know. I just think there's unfortunately always going to be a market of people that want to make more money.
Yeah.
Otherwise, everyone would just DCA Bitcoin, not talk about shitcoin, and it wouldn't even be a conversation. But human nature is greed, generally speaking, and people want more. And you get 100% appreciation on Bitcoin. But hey, guess what? If you can have another 10% on top of that, why not take the 10% and the 100%? And the reality is that's too good to be true.
Yeah. Yeah. The dumb money will always find its place. I like to say it literally does not matter how much Bitcoin appreciates. There'll be a shitcoin that comes out, and the founders will promise that it is double the appreciation of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And the dumb money will go, okay, let's try that one. And then someone else will come out and go, this one is double that one.
Yeah.
Our shitcoin's better than that shitcoin. And before you know it, you got someone going, I'll 10x your money by tomorrow. And the dumb money always finds its place. Yeah.
It's like we've talked about it so many times before, but it's like the amount of pain that the majority of people have to go through before settling on, okay, it is Bitcoin. It just is. Um, I'm keeping my claim to fame that I'm the only one on this pod that has never shitcoined ever. But I did that because I listened to you guys, and no matter how tempting it was to be like, ooh, shiny dog, really shiny dog. Elon's pumping it, shiny dog. It's just like, no, the fundamentals are switch off that greed, think longer term. Like, what are you going to do anyway? Convert it, to dollars, which is worthless. That's just, yeah, it's an anomaly in most people's journey to Bitcoin, which is buy a bit of Bitcoin, buy something else, get wrecked on the something else, buy maybe a little bit more Bitcoin, buy a bit more of something even more new and more shiny, get wrecked on that. And you notice the whole time you've been also buying the Bitcoin's been just steadily plodding along, doing what it does. And you're like, I keep getting wrecked on these things over here. And this thing over here doesn't, I mean, it hurts me sometimes. Those 70% pullbacks sting. But ultimately, fundamentally, extrapolated over 5-6 years, you start to realize, why am I messing around with this over here? Let's just do this. Yeah. That's most people's normal journey into it, I imagine. And this is just the pain that people had to go through.
Yeah. If anything, I think we all take it probably as a bit of a win that you didn't shitcoin, because you were probably like, last in technically when into the proper Bitcoin journey. And the fact that you didn't deviate really shows that we were like very steadfast on it and our rationale for why you shouldn't go there. Yeah. And I also think the fact that I think you're very lazy also helped, because
mate, my laziness saves me so many times in my life, right? I'm like, why would I put any extra effort in when the smartest person I know is telling me this is what you should do, and I haven't listened to that person for 7 years? So like, at some point you have to go, I'm just going to back the horse that the smartest person is backing.
Yeah, because I think when myself and Sir never look, we didn't even get into Bitcoin when we did this. Both bought Ethereum, and it's literally 2016, which is a retail boom. Oh, Bitcoin! Look at it; it's going up. Oh, we can buy the second thing in the price index. So we both bought Ethereum, and literally bought a little bit of Bitcoin. Didn't look at the Bitcoin. Didn't look at the Ethereum until 2020, when it was literally like I just came across a tweet which I think Mr. Allin had reposted or liked or whatever from Saifedean Ammous, and I just read it and just went, and I started reading his tweets, and it resonated. Then I bought his book, and literally I fell into it then. Whereas 2016, I wasn't a Bitcoiner. I was literally just absolute. It was like buying a lottery ticket, but an expensive one.
Yeah. If you want to find the best way to do something most efficiently, copy a lazy person, because they are very good at very efficiently doing minimal work for maximum output.
I was going to say, you didn't buy in 2016, 17, did you?
No, I was 2019, 2020? Just that I had the Coinbase nonsense.
2020.
November, I had the Coinbase nonsense in November and December. Well, I was just, every week we were chatting, and it was like, yeah, I've got another email saying your account's going to be verified next week. And then I think it was probably January. I think it was December, January time. I was like, I've had enough of waiting for Coinbase. So, and even then I was lazy, because I spoke to Mr. Allin and I'm like, what's the next best exchange after Coinbase? I'll just do that one.
Well, for ages, I was like, just don't wait. Like, we're in a bull market, dude. Like, get to another exchange. Don't wait for Coinbase. And I think it took you about a month. You finally go, okay, fine. What was that exchange you said again?
That legitimately could pull out the exact text message where I said, what was that exchange again?
I'm like, dude, like, you should have been doing this ages ago. It's still going to take a week or two, but fine. Like, at least you're on this bit now.
To be fair, it didn't. It was instant. To be fair, once because so I don't know, like Gemini, fucking straight away, class. And that, I don't know if you remember, we were chatting at the time. The first thing I said to you was, why didn't I just do this like 6 weeks ago?
I know.
And you were like, I know. And you've now gone from 17K to 23K, dickhead.
Yeah.
But even then, like, you look back and you think, at that time, I was pissed off not at anybody else other than myself, because I missed out, in inverted commas, from that 17K to the 23, 22K or whatever it was. Well, it's double that now, and we're talking 5 years on. So you think in that 5 year kind of time frame, yeah, it's annoying. You might miss a swing of 3, 4, 5, 6K here or there, but it becomes almost irrelevant And this is the other message that I then tell other people is, yeah, I get really annoyed at that. And I got annoyed at missing out on the like getting in under 20K. But the reality is that it's now 50. So still winning.
We want to move on to the last story. So quite a big one actually to have as last story. Because usually it's a bit of a funny, and this is a bit full on, isn't it?
It is pretty
So
full
this,
on, yeah.
yeah. So Bruce Fenton is he a politician or just a wannabe politician?
Wannabe. He's run for something but never got in.
Yeah. So he put in quite a big post, which has gathered quite a lot of attention across Bitcoin Twitter, where he pointed out Jack Dorsey, so the former CEO of Twitter, and is he the current one of Block? And I think he's invested in various other companies, and he's involved in things such as donating towards Bitcoin core developers and other some bits and pieces. But Bruce has asked a question which is pretty much spot on. Where were you when everyone was getting blocked with information on Twitter? Why have you not come out ever since? And I suppose that's me really paraphrasing, which is missing some bits, but it is a very good question. What the fuck happened to Jack Dorsey? And why hasn't he come out after the event? I mean, Elon even revealed all this information as well.
Yeah. To be fair, it's something that I've always wrestled with Jack as well. And my only defense of him, because I think undoubtedly he talks very well about Bitcoin. I think his principles are very, very aligned. And he literally, if he is a Trojan horse, he's one of the best ones that I've seen because he seems to live and breathe everything that is the core principles of Bitcoin. But yeah, so the only defense I can have, because clearly he invented Twitter. He definitely invented it. And then at some point he was CEO of Twitter and Square at the same time and seemed to be on yoga retreats for a lot of his time as well. So the only defense I can scabble together for him is that he was CEO in title only. He wasn't really running Twitter at all. I think that kind of got away from him, got infected by the woke and got infected by the CIA. And they basically took control of that company off him, even though he was CEO. I think he was spending most of his time in Square, where he was trying to build a financial kind of business, which did incredibly well and is now one of the leading financial firms that he's now using as a ancillary to Block, and he pushes a lot of his Bitcoin stuff into Square now. But so that's my own defense. My own defense of him is he didn't even fucking know. He wasn't really in control of any of this censorship. I think he was probably receiving reports from his kind of censorship team that was, do you agree with this policy? As in, we will block racist, dangerous, terrorism, child porn, like the worst of the worst stuff, right? And but mixed into that, some of the categories would have been like misinformation, and then that's a very difficult and dangerous little line there, right? Because then now, what's the definition of misinformation? And obviously, as we saw during the peak censorship time, was if you disagreed with anything of the government narrative during the pandemic and lockdown, then that was global misinformation. You should be blocked, banned, deleted off your social profile. And ideally, that social profile should be doxed and give to your local authority that could come around and either fine or arrest you. So my only really rationale is he's either a complete government agent and he knew about this and okayed it, and now he is co-opting into Bitcoin, pretending to share our values, and at some point build a big business and then entrap us all in some form of thing, and the hardware wallets and the hot wallets on your phone are all just going to get seized, and it's all a big fucking scam. That's one option. Or the second option is he's actually telling the truth now. And back in his Twitter days, like let's be honest, he's on the beach, he's having a good time, and he thought things he was signing off around the censorship that's happening on the platform was just necessary for a big publicly listed company. And with the popularity that Twitter got, he knew he would have to delete some tweets and you have to censor stuff. Even in the world of say like me running Twitter, of course I would censor some stuff on it. If I was the CEO of a publicly owned company, I wouldn't let like death threats, terrorism, child porn be on that platform. If I saw those tweets, I would literally I would make sure they were deleted. But then it's a very slippery slope of that, of then, oh, now that's my form of censorship. But when do I start to think? So I think he was just doing that, but in the little thing that he thought he was censoring, over time, it creeped out and out and out and out and out. And in the end, just talking out about the government was getting you banned off Twitter. And I don't think he really knew that was happening. Although, having said that, he did go on Joe Rogan to answer a lot of this, and he went on with his head of censorship and largely doubled down on a lot of it. And when I kind of stand behind a lot of this, but and I must admit, I've never seen him actually answer to these crimes on a Bitcoin podcast yet. No one, everyone kind of just sucks his dick really because he's some billionaire that's in the space, is super high profile, throws $10 million around like it's confetti. Clearly, he's the founder of Twitter, right? And Square. He's multi billionaire. So he kind of comes into this space, and I think people give him, if he comes on your podcast, I don't think people want to piss him off. And in reality, people need to piss him off and go, right, you need to answer once and for all what happened at Twitter. Tell us whether you were just not paying attention or you're complicit, because it can't be either or both. It needs to be fucking one of these. And please tell us you were just asleep at the wheel. Because if you weren't, then yeah, that is a one hell of a big thing that you do not share with Bitcoiners, which is that censorship that was going on under your reign was totally unacceptable. So if you were part of that,
Yeah.
then why do you want censorship-free money? It doesn't make
Yeah.
sense. Those two things don't add up because it just doesn't. Like ever since Elon took over Twitter, Jesus, like I was getting banned or silenced on Twitter every 2 weeks under Dorsey. Now I can go on a freaking full rampage. Nothing fucking happens. It's almost boring. It's almost reduced my Twitter time. I used to just keep going until I got the 2 week timeout and then go, oh, all right, done. And it used to take me about 45 minutes. Now I can just go all day and nothing happens. It's almost boring.
Yeah.
What about, I was just going to say, what about the kind of other option, which is the government somehow had him, while he's at Twitter, that was part of his why he had to get out and sell to Musk.
I was just saying that because if you look at like the timing of him getting out, it kind of feels like it aligns with all of this coming to a head. But like you say though, if he's gone on a podcast and he's doubled down on it, you can't make the argument that you can't shut the stable door after the horse is bolted, because if that's not what you're saying, then
he's gone on with head of censorship, who's basically government employee, aren't they?
yeah.
The head of censorship.
One of Elon's first moves was firing her. That was hilarious. Because she'd come out on Twitter largely slagging Elon off. And literally Elon, within about 2 hours of that tweet, fired her. It was just, Elon is fucking brutal, but I love it. I love it.
But it is like Jack, somehow they had him in that pocket, is what I'm starting to think. Having this conversation and talking out, and also listening to Mr. Orlin on his rant there about Jack Dorsey, because at first I was like, it's got to be answered, and it has got to be answered, but I am more suspicious that in so many years we're going to find out that he was owned, and he got Elon to come into Twitter because he was owned and he knew he had to get out.
But then also, just to support the sleep at the wheel thing, Elon fired 80% of the workforce and Twitter now runs better. All right, so
they said it was going to collapse at first, didn't they?
Yeah, because it was a loss-making business by a country mile. It just needed VC funding to keep underpinning it. Even though Twitter was an extremely revenue generating business, they just spent 8 times more than they made. And we used to laugh at the TikToks, right? Occasionally a TikTok would go viral on Twitter, these product managers that would, a day in the life of being a product manager at Twitter. Oh, it starts off at 10 a.m. with my first coffee, and then I go in and do a meeting, and then we play some ping pong and did it. Like literally no
And
work.
then I go into the thought room where I reflect and have a mojito.
Yeah. And yeah, then a free lunch, and I have a little bit of Indonesian food, a little bit of French, and then I'm home by half four to then go have a cocktail with my mates down the bar, and then we'll get home about midnight, and then we do it all again tomorrow. You're like, at no point did you do any work, and you are clearly drunk from the majority of today. And there was countless of these, and they were all Facebook, Twitter, like the entire social media kind of empires were all clearly inflated with these very highly paid people that did largely nothing. And obviously they all cut people, but in Twitter, the problem was exponentially worse. Facebook and was it Google, Amazon, they all cut like 20 to 30% of people.
But they made
Elon
money
cut
there.
80. He only kept 20. And everyone went, oh, Twitter's going to crumble and like be constantly down if you do that. And there's no new features being rolled out. There's never been more new features getting rolled out. Twitter hasn't gone down. The popularity of the platform has almost gone parabolic since he took over. And you go, those 80% of people were literally doing nothing. If anything, they were being a hindrance to the business because the company is more efficient without them in it.
You don't need 20 meetings to decide when you're having your next meeting.
Yeah, I'm sure there's like 14 people on the call, and I bet there'd be one developer sat there being like, I'm doing all the work. And there'd be 13 people going, this is what the work is. So you need one of them, and should have 5 people doing the work, one person telling them what the work is.
Yeah, I was having a look at Jack's Twitter account, see the activity, and there's since this has come out, so it came out, was it the 6th, which Bruce posted it?
Yeah.
He's had one post which is sharing some art of probably one of his mates. That's the only thing which has appeared of Jack, unless he's liked things, and you can't see likes anymore, can you?
Oh yeah, it's another thing Elon's changed. Yeah, he hit likes, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah.
So like with Jack, you're kind of going, he hasn't been active. I think he is relatively active on Twitter. So you're kind of thinking this has come across his radar.
No,
maybe
Jack's never really been a master poster on
Twitter.
Isn't
he?
Yes.
No, not really. No.
No, he does the odd comment, and he'll do the. He's one of these kids, right, that is a little bit like too cool for his own platform. Like, so instead of doing a whole tweet, like explaining what you mean, he'll repost something and just put one word or like one emoji, and you have to go, oh, like extrapolate, from that. And it kind of annoys me when people think they're so famous that all I have to do is retweet an article and put an emoji there, and whether I support it, whether I'm building a business behind it or what. I can just tease what you may think I think, as opposed to just fucking saying it like everyone else.
His timeline, just flicking through it now, is a lot of, in the last month or so, like the Assange stuff. And his last tweet, which was more than one word, just said safe passage through. Like, what does that even like?
What, with no link to an article, just
nothing,
that?
just safe passage through. 25th of the 6th. He's probably referring to Assange again being free, but yeah, it just feels like there's a lot of stuff around that. And
like that was the safe passage through was rumored that he paid some Bitcoin into Assange's account.
Yeah.
No one's admitted to it, but it was around at the time which that tweet was sent, it suddenly appeared.
And then before that, like anything more than a couple of words, we are only what we pay attention to. So like literally, that's it. So he's not particularly active anyway.
Okay. Yeah, so I misjudged that then. But I think with this, because it is gathering quite a lot of attention, and Bruce isn't the only post which Bruce has done about this,
Yeah,
but I think it's Bruce's main purpose for life at the moment is
Yeah, he's
posting about this. So he has really stuck it in because he's got a bit of attention and he keeps on coming back to it. And I think Jack is out. Well, I obviously I don't really understand his personality because he doesn't post very regularly, but I imagine he would address this.
yeah, no, I reckon Jack will just completely ignore it. I think at some point, like I know he gets on with Jack Mallers. I would love because I think we covered it on here where the two Jacks got together and they did a pod, and I think my comment at the time literally was, I really wish they talked about the Twitter censorship.
mm,
That is the big bugbear that Bitcoiners have about Jack. Everything else that he's done his entire career and everything since is 10 out of 10, gold class. Clearly, the guy is extremely talented, very intelligent, and smash business, and he's done extremely well. But this censorship thing happened under his watch, and literally the only defense we have is incompetence. And clearly, he is not an incompetent person. So you go, I struggle to pin that on it,
yeah,
other than the fact that it happened quite late in his tenure, and clearly he was on the beach. So
yeah,
maybe incompetence can play a part because it's not because he was incompetent. He just was not at the wheel. He wasn't even
yeah,
in the car when the car
yeah,
went veering off a cliff and smashed in smithereens on the beach. And he's like, "Oh fuck, maybe I should have been paying more attention." But
yeah.
Yeah,
I'd love someone to address it.
you
Incompetence
you
or
hope
lack of
so.
control.
I really do hope that's the outcome of this one because, like I said, he's done so much good. But it would be nice to actually know what's going on. Before, I think it may have just gone over my head slightly about it when you mentioned it on the previous one. I can't remember how long it was, but I do remember the pod between the two jacks.
It's probably a good year ago, but yeah, we'll see. I think in reality, his hardware wallet, unfortunately, it wasn't the iPhone of hardware wallets, was it? It looks sexy, but it doesn't have 24 words. It basically was designed a bit as a hot wallet. So in reality, you wouldn't keep your life savings on Jack's wallet. You would keep your 50 to $100 worth of Bitcoin on it, and then you go walking about, doing your day-to-day activity. You would spend that Bitcoin, and it would make sense for that type of use case. But the wallet he came out with was not suitable for keeping your life savings on. It was not a bank account. It was a hot wallet. So yeah, who knows? But I think it'd be a bit different because in reality, Jack at the moment, what influence does he have on Bitcoin? Like basically zero. We know he's a big holder of Bitcoin. He's built Square accepts Bitcoin. I know he's invested in a lot of Bitcoin businesses. He's supported a lot of developers. But does he own an exchange? Does he own a hardware wallet that has decent usage? No and no. So even if he is a government asset, would it impact Bitcoin any at all? Nope. So I think Bruce is just doing this to attack someone in Bitcoin and see if he can get some more followers and a bit more
Mm.
clout. If anything, like this Bruce guy, he's been known to shill shitcoins. He's invented shitcoins himself. So he's definitely rent seeking here and trying to profit off a big person's name. And he has a point, but this point has been raised numerous times. It's not anything new. It's just that
Yeah, it's not like this is new news he's bringing to us that we've never talked
no,
about before. So you're recycling a point to make a point to grow your following. That's
yeah,
it. That's all you're doing.
yeah, there's no new evidence that
No.
suggests that, oh, here's some evidence that here's an email from Jack supporting censorship on a certain issue inside Twitter. No, no new evidence. It's just censorship happened whilst he was there. Like he's probably working one day a week and doing a board meeting where censorship was so many layers below him. He was just, like I said, agreeing to the core principle of what should be censored. And I'm sure in the meeting he was in, the things that they said they were censoring made absolute sense. But then below the scenes, it's like, right, what is the definition of causing public harm here in this definition, and causing public harm would have been not agreeing a lockdown, saying Fauci's a lying prick, saying that the virus came out of the lab, saying masks don't work. That is now causing public harm. So without him realizing it, he incriminated people like myself. And you go, fuck you, Jack, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I didn't realize. Like, well, come on. Like, you were CEO. Maybe you should have double checked some of these definitions because it was the biggest issue between 2020 and 2022, censorship on social media, when everyone was locked at home and no one was speaking in person. We could only speak on these platforms. You should have been paying attention, mate. That's one hell of a big drop in the ball moment. And I'd like him to come out and go, I'm sorry. I was there. I had the conversations. I didn't dig into the detail. I fucked up. Sorry. And then it's kind of done. Fine, we can move on now. But he's never addressed it. And
all that other stuff you said though, like almost comes across as it could be because it's partly down to like an element of arrogance. You admit that, you then admit you were wrong, you then admit you didn't do this, so it's easier to double down and be like, yeah, I did that, because then at least you don't look incompetent.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think we'll ever know, by the way. I don't think there's ever going to be an answer. I don't think he's ever going to come out and say anything. And unless there are emails or physical evidence going one way or the other, I just don't think it'll ever actually be addressed.
Yeah, Twitter, like good old Elon if Elon stumbled across this, he'd have a quick look in his Twitter files and like have a look at Jack's emails.
All redacted the day he left, all censored.
Elon would just go straight to like one of the key devs or in IT and go, yeah, I know they're redacted, but show me the unredacted versions of Jack. Yeah.
I mean, though, that's a point in itself, though. Surely he would have done that because it was the thing he was moaning about. So if that hard evidence existed that he was truly 100% complicit, and Elon, like, that was one of the things he was complaining about before he bought the platform, surely he'd have gone and said, by the way, I was right, guy's a dickhead. So, and he hasn't. So in a way, does that also speak volumes? Because if that hard evidence existed, I'm pretty sure Elon would be dropping it.
Yeah. All the emails in the Twitter files were on middle management.
Yeah.
It was all happening in the middle of the business largely. The CIA had got in the middle, asked to have this pipe put in. The pipe had got put in, and then they only dealt with middle management largely. They just had free reign to do what they wanted in there. So yeah. Oh well, hopefully someone asks him the question at some point, and then we'll just see. I'd like to see the question be put to him, that not on Joe Rogan, someone like a Bitcoiner that really understands this and go, what happened? And just see his answer. If he dodges the question, you go, all right, that's sus. If he answers it honestly and just holds his hands up, even if he just went, I thought it was the right thing to do at the time. I believed in the pandemic. I believed in the government narrative. Even that, I would go, okay, like, fine. I think you're a fucking moron for thinking it, but at least you're being honest.
Yeah.
That you believed it at the time and you thought you were doing the best. And now you regret it and go, oh, I shouldn't have censored all those people for just speaking out against the government when they ended up being wrong. So, yeah, even that would be fine. But yeah, I do think Jack has a big ego. He definitely.
I definitely get that vibe from, like you say, anybody that just drops a heart emoji for 1 million likes or whatever, fuck me.
Yeah. All right, sweet. I think we're done, aren't we? We want to get out of here.
Yeah.
All right, sweet.
I was going to say, how on earth do we end it?
Pod 147.
Clip it in.
Clip in this and have a look. I'm going to do a pod 147.
Yeah, we got Mr. All In. We got Mrs. No Show, but no, so never looking at shows. So we aren't topped and tailed.
Peace.